Well, first of all, I welcome the fact that the unofficial industrial action, the unofficial stoppage in Dublin Bus has ended. I want to echo the statement which was issued yesterday by the Labour Party spokesperson on transport, Deputy Brahan, who promptly called for a return to work. And I hope that there will not be a repetition of the kind of unofficial action that we have seen, which has caused so much disruption to commuters and to people in Dublin. This was one of the many issues which has been raised with me over the course of the past number of days, indeed since we met here last Thursday. People also worried about their jobs, fear of losing their jobs. I've come across business people who are self-employed, who complain that they can't get any assistance in these difficult times from state agencies, concerned about the fact that there's continuing problem in the banks and not able to get credit. I've met people who are concerned about, again, new reports in relation to cancer services, this time in Waterford. And indeed, more recently, people who are concerned about the prospect of the possibility of a flu epidemic and who are wondering what action government is taking to deal with the cases that have emerged, tests that are being undertaken, and who are worried that there might be a possible spread here of this flu. And in those circumstances, I think what people want is they want a sense that there's a government that's in charge of these matters and that's on top of them. And what we got over the course of the weekend was a series of reports which tell us that this Fianna Fail government is riven with division. It is understandable that a Minister of State who's been dropped from office will express disappointment, but by the normal standards of disappointment, the statements made by former Minister of State at the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment are quite extraordinary. He tells us that former Minister McGuinness, Deputy McGuinness, tells us that there's paralysis now in the Fianna Fail government. He says that he has no confidence. He says he has no confidence in the Fianna Fail Taoiseach and Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. He says that she is not up to the job. He says, and I'm quoting, she is not equipped to deal with the complex issues facing her department, and neither is her department. And when she issued a statement denying that he had said that he had no confidence in her, he says again in a further statement that he told her that to her face at a meeting on the 11th of March, that he had no confidence in her. And he went on to say, and I'm quoting again, she has heard nothing and acted on nothing that business leaders have been telling her since her appointment. Now, Taoiseach, if Deputy Kenny or I came into this House and said any of that in respect of the Taoiseach, I know the kind of response you'd give us. What I want to know today is what response do you give to Deputy McGuinness? And what response do you give to the other members of your party who, in thinly disguised anonymity in the Sunday papers, have repeated virtually the same thing? Well, can I first of all remind the Taoiseach that these criticisms are not coming from the opposition. They're coming from his own side of the House. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as the Labour Party is concerned, the Taoiseach, in the work that she is doing today, her mission abroad, has our support. We want her mission to succeed. These are comments that have come from the Minister of State, who was originally appointed by your predecessor and was reappointed by you, and who has been her number two, her deputy, in that department for the course of the past year since you appointed her Taoiseach and Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. Now, whatever divisions and whatever Ishke Fehalav and whatever kind of machinations is going on behind your back, Taoiseach, is a matter for you and a matter for your party. The concern that it is to the rest of us, and I think to the wider public, is that if you and your leadership team are spending your time and are going to spend the next number of months looking over your shoulder, looking behind you, looking for little conspiracies, looking for people stabbing you in the back, looking for more ministers and more backbenchers making these type of comments either about you, and some of this is about you. It says that paralysis, that's the phrase that's used in relation to yourself and to your leadership of the government. As long as that continues, you're not going to be focused on the problems that the people of the country want the government to be addressing. That's the problem. So, as I said, I mean, and you've given a very, very half-hearted. I mean, as I said earlier, if either Deputy Kenny or I came in here and made those kind of criticisms about Minister Coughlin, or indeed about any of your other ministers, you'd be fit to be tied to your seat in terms of the response that you'd give to us. And I can only contrast that with what was the response that you've given here today, which, frankly, is very muted and very half-hearted, particularly by your standards.